What is up, guys? Hassan Malik back here again. And today I have another entry in our Evolution series where we take a deep dive into a certain aspect of LEGO Star Wars, look at its history and what a potential future for it might look like. Real quick before we get into it, I did want to remind you guys that the giveaway for $100 worth of any sets on the LEGO store just began, so make sure to click on the card above or head over to that video, leave a comment and subscribe to automatically be entered. Make sure to leave a comment on that video though, not this one. Alright, back to the video. Today we'll be looking at everyone's favorite massable figures, the Clone Trooper. Just a quick reminder that you can also check out the last two Evolution videos on blasters and lightsabers. I'll leave links to both of those videos in the description. This one is going to be a little long, but we will be going quite in depth here. I won't be going over every Clone Trooper LEGO has put out there in this video, just the major ones. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with our first variation of the Clone Trooper, the Phase 1 Standard Clone Trooper from Attack of the Clones, which was released in 2002 with the first wave of sets based on the movie. These clones may not look too detailed due to the lack of leg printing, but if you take a look at the torso prints, they were honestly detailed enough to blend right in with figures over a decade newer than this one. The helmets did use the slit in the helmet mold with a black headpiece underneath to simulate a visor. That method is pretty dated, but at the time, that was LEGO's standard way of handling helmets and visors. The lower portion of the visor does look a little wonky, but printing on curved helmets like this was difficult for LEGO at the time. The helmet mold itself also wasn't too bad, but did restrict movement with the chin. I think this was a fantastic figure for its time, even though it hasn't aged that well. LEGO didn't actually alter the Clone Trooper until the next variant of Phase 2 Clone Troopers was revealed, with the first wave of Revenge of the Sith sets in 2005. The only thing LEGO really changed here was the helmet for the new Phase 2 clones. The torso and legs remained the same. This version of the Clone Trooper wasn't too big of an upgrade from the last, but the biggest change was adding new variants of clones from different battalions, such as the 91st, 41st, 327th, Shock Troopers, and even clone pilots. This is where the appeal of customization really started to reveal itself to fans and started making LEGO Clone Troopers very desirable. The fact that Clone Troopers were just so cool in the movies obviously also added to their collectability. Now in 2008, LEGO made the most dramatic change to their Clone Troopers with the first wave of sets based on the Clone Wars movie. Although I did want to mention that the Phase 2 clones from 2005 were still being used in sets all the way until 2010, since they weren't making too many sets based on Episode 3 and didn't really have a need for an updated Phase 2 helmet. As for the new Phase 1 helmet, this absolutely changed the game by moving away from the open slit visors and opting for printed versions instead. And this is by far the biggest change in the evolution of the Clone Trooper. The Phase 1 clone's new helmet was less bulky and looked very sleek. LEGO also improved the printing on these figures by introducing a new overhauled design for their torsos, giving the figures far more detail. LEGO also took prints and variants of Clone Troopers another step further by creating specific named Clone Troopers like Captain Rex, Commander Fox, and even Commander Cody. But my favorite part of this step in the evolution of the Clone Trooper was the addition of the accessory pieces that are still used to this day in some sets. They gave us the ability to customize our clones with our own pauldrons, visors, rangefinders, and commas. And the way the new clones were designed allowed us to mix and match these accessories with any of the other clones we had due to these small peg holes that were molded into each helmet. I do want to apologize, while I was recording this I realized I forgot to mention the heads underneath the Clone Trooper helmets. So I'll just go through those really quickly right now. In 2008 they actually introduced the new animated heads. And these look pretty terrible in my opinion since they use these animated eyes that didn't really fit with the rest of LEGO's designs. And then in 2013 we got the infamous Angry Clone head. And this headpiece was really overused throughout all of LEGO Star Wars, whether it be Clone Troopers or Stormtroopers. They did have another expression for the Angry Clone, but we only saw that a few times in a few different sets, so we generally just had this one expression. And then in 2020, they actually made the change of making the skin tone for the Clone Troopers much more accurate with the medium nougat color. and these heads look far more accurate to Jango Fett, which is actually what the clones are supposed to look like. So I just thought I'd add this into the video really quickly. Okay, back to the video. LEGO would continue to use this variant of Clone Trooper for pretty much every set based on Phase 1 Clone Troopers from the Clone Wars TV show, all the way until 2012. In the time span between 2008 and 2012 of LEGO using this Phase 1 variant of the Clone Trooper, LEGO did make a few special Clone Troopers that stood apart from the rest. I did want to mention that they did use the same mold for the Clone Pilot, which technically isn't accurate since they are not supposed to have that fin at the back of the helmet, but I am definitely nitpicking there. But in 2010, LEGO did make a new mold for the Clone Pilot helmet that was more accurate to how we see them in Episode 3. LEGO did also introduce the ARF Trooper in many different variations that was a very welcome addition to the LEGO Clone Trooper family. The Shadow ARF is still one of my favorite figures to this day. In 2012, we also received a very strange helmet for one of the most unique Clone Troopers ever made. This helmet mold is actually based on prototype Phase 2 armor from the Clone Wars TV show, which was a hybrid between Phase 1 and 2. That is why it looks pretty much exactly like a Phase 2 helmet, only with the addition of the fin at the back. This figure is actually based on Commander Hammer from the Clone Wars TV show, but isn't officially named after the character. Even though it is 8 years old now, this minifigure is my favorite Clone Trooper LEGO has ever made. This is the only variation of the ARC Trooper LEGO has ever made, but we'll discuss that a bit later. LEGO went absolutely off on this figure, giving us detail and printing all over the place on the helmet, legs, and toes. The figure also came equipped with his own cloth pauldron and comma with accessories in the red color scheme to match the rest of his look. This is an outstanding figure and is the best clone LEGO has put out there. In 2013, we saw major changes to both the Phase 1 and Phase 2 clones. The Phase 1 Clone Troopers were finally depicted in live action variants again, which came with new prints on the helmet that look far more accurate to how we see them in Attack of the Clones. The mold for the helmet remained the same as the Clone Wars TV show variant, but the new print did change up the look quite a bit. These clones also came with their own unique variations, with different colors representing the various Clone Trooper ranks, such as light blue for lieutenants, olive green for sergeants, red for captains, and yellow for commanders. We also saw the Phase 1 pilot redone with the new film accurate print, although it still had the fin on the back of the head, which is fine. These Phase 1 Clone Troopers were the beginning of something very necessary to the LEGO clone by altering the prints and colors to fit their live action counterparts much better. This trend would continue with other Clone Troopers for years to come. In this same year, LEGO finally updated the Phase 2 helmet as well with an all-new mold. The shaping of this helmet was great, but the only figures we initially received using this new design were all based on the Clone Wars TV series, which meant they used the more cartoon-like design for the visor and torso prints. Nonetheless, LEGO still made some fantastic minifigures using this new design, from new 501st and 327th Troopers to an amazing Phase 2 Captain Rex minifigure. This Captain Rex minifigure would also include a cloth comma and a cloth pauldron, but the one thing that is missing from this Rex minifigure is his rangefinder, and that is due to the fact that LEGO decided not to include the holes on the side of the helmet to make the new clones compatible with the previous accessories. Ultimately, I think this was a mistake, but we will get to that later. In this same year, we also saw a new variation of the Clone Pilot based on the Umbara arc in the Clone Wars TV series. 2013 was one of the most revolutionary years for the LEGO Clone Trooper, but 2014 followed with even more additions. Mainly the introduction of Phase 2 clones based on their live action variants. These clones didn't look too different from their Clone Wars versions, but included more accurate printing and tons of new colors and designs for various clone battalions. With these new live-action LEGO clones, we also saw a couple new molds introduced for the 41st Elite Clone Troopers and 212th Airborne Troopers. Both these new molds look fantastic and were extremely necessary in portraying these characters as accurately as possible. Over the next couple of years, LEGO didn't really update or change their design for the Clone Trooper. We pretty much only received reskins of the past variations that we already discussed, with new colors and prints to signify different ranks or legions, but nothing new in terms of the base design or molds. A few notable ones are the Geonosian Clone Troopers and the Clone Gunner. And the main reason LEGO wasn't changing or updating their designs was due to the fact that they just weren't making as many sets based on the Clone Wars. 2015 was the beginning of the sequel trilogy, and paired with the fact that Lucasfilm was producing anthology films between the mainline ones, LEGO just didn't have room in their waves or good reason to change up the Clone Trooper. And that isn't even necessarily a bad thing. The prints and designs of the LEGO Clone Trooper are pretty much near perfect, and there isn't all that much room for improvement. So the fact that LEGO didn't change the design of LEGO clones for about 6 years isn't really much of an issue, although I would have definitely liked to see them included in far more sets. But that was not the end for the clone in LEGO form. The latest change to their design actually occurred this year in 2020 with the 501st Legion Clone Troopers, AAT, and Grievous' Starfighter. This new design for the Clone Trooper is based on the Clone Wars TV series, but doesn't look nearly as cartoon-like as the original Phase 2 TV series clones. These honestly fit right in with the rest of the live-action variants, even if the visor printing is ever so slightly different. Aside from the new prints to update the figure's design, the major change that occurred here was the recoloring of the arms and hip pieces. Typically on Clone Troopers, LEGO will usually opt to use the color of the battalion as the color of the arm piece, but they have now decided to go with a complete white mold for the arms to match the rest of the armor. And this change has been a little controversial. A lot of people preferred the blue colored arm pieces, which I definitely understand, but the thing is, these white molded arms are technically more accurate since majority of their arms are actually white. Ideally, I'd love to see LEGO print on the shoulder armor details and color them in, but that is a little unrealistic at this stage. The white hip piece is also technically more accurate, although they did try to add some black printing to represent the layer underneath the armor. And the final major change with these figures was adding toe printing as a standard, which is great to see. With this new design, we have seen a few variations of LEGO Clone Troopers using it, such as the 501st Jet Trooper, the 212th Airborne Trooper, and the 332nd Clone Trooper. All these figures follow the new design with the recoloring of the arm and hip pieces where applicable, and adding some really great prints that look outstanding and very accurate. Now, LEGO has made great Clone Troopers over the years, and they have evolved into near perfect variations of what they set out to be, but the thing is, they are not perfect, and there is still room for improvement. So now let's discuss where the LEGO Clone Trooper needs to go in 2021 and beyond, and how LEGO can improve them. I want to preface this next part by saying that the LEGO clones we have right now are amazing. I am in no way attacking LEGO's designs or their efforts. These are simply ways I think LEGO could improve clones and the next steps I believe they should take. Okay, so a great source of inspiration that LEGO has always seemed to follow and use in their own designs is the custom minifigure community. LEGO Star Wars fans have been making their own custom vehicles and minifigures since the beginning of the theme. And some of these customs look absolutely perfect. I'm sure you guys have heard of Clone Army Customs and tons of other custom minifig makers in the community. Now looking at these, they are obviously way too detailed for LEGO to realistically produce en masse in countless sets. But the way LEGO has always worked with their printing and designs is that as time goes on, the more complicated designs become more realistic for them to achieve. For example, leg printing was not very common on earlier clones, but with today's standards, it would almost be seen as bad if LEGO wasn't including leg printing on the new 501st Clone Troopers or any of the other new clones. As time has gone on, the more rare printing is now commonplace on most Clone Troopers. It now looks like toe printing will even become standard on Clone Troopers, which is a great thing to see. So the next logical step in printing would be including arm printing as the new standard across all clones. This would finally address issues of the change in arm colors not looking accurate enough, since they could instead simply print these shoulder pads onto the arm piece directly instead of recoloring the whole thing one way or the other. I would love to see them bring hip printing back, but LEGO has always struggled with getting the torso printing to flow to the hip printing nicely. So hopefully LEGO could solve that and implement it nicely as well. The next addition in terms of accessories that I'd like to see is including commas and pauldrons on clones more often. Also, I would love to see them introduce a new mold for the clone pauldrons, since I do think a plastic molded piece would look way better than a cloth one. And if they could start printing these pieces, that'd look even more awesome. Don't get me wrong, I like the pauldron that they used on Captain Rex, and that figure overall looks absolutely fantastic, but having a molded one would look better in my opinion. Another change that I could definitely see LEGO making in the next few years is introducing new dual molded helmets for their clones. I really don't want to see this happen though, as the new dual molded Stormtrooper helmets and the dual molded Rebel Pilot helmets were both downgrades to me. I still prefer the last variant of the Stormtrooper over the current one, but I do respect LEGO's attempt at trying to move the minifigure forward. And the last thing they need to change is bring back the small pinhole on the side of the helmets to allow for the use of accessories like the rangefinder and visors. Pretty much LEGO needs to start creating a lot more figures like the ARC Trooper that was made in 2012. And this brings me to the real change and evolution that needs to occur with LEGO Clone Troopers. LEGO needs to start making far more specialized clone troopers like ARC Troopers and Clone Commanders. The named clone troopers we have seen in Star Wars are some of the most sought after minifigures in the aftermarket, so LEGO really needs to start implementing these characters in far more sets. They need to start making clone troopers like Fives, Jesse, Rex, Wolf, Gregor, Fox, and even a Phase 2 Cody. There are countless named clones that LEGO have not made, and I could go on forever naming them. This one you're looking at now is a custom Jesse I made recently, which will be part of a new collectible minifigure series, so stay tuned for that. It kind of sucks that LEGO has to be pushed by the fans to give us these awesome clones like the 501st Troopers and the ever inevitable Phase 2 Cody, when we still get many useless sets like the 2020 Luke's Landspeeder. I don't even think that this set was really that bad, it's just that not many people were really asking for a set like this, and fans have been asking for these named clones for years now. So LEGO needs to start being more aware of what the fans want. I know they have their marketing teams that choose what sets to make very carefully, and they usually do a very good job, but just look at what happens when LEGO listens to the fans and gives us the clones we want. The 501st Legion Clone Trooper set is selling out pretty much everywhere, and this is a great thing for fans since we get the sets we want and LEGO makes the sales that they need. Although I do think LEGO needs to do a better job of restocking these 501st Legion Clone Trooper sets, but with everything going on in the world right now, it is definitely forgivable. Another thing I wanted to mention was the need for all this detailed printing and high-end figures. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, you know what, the current Clone Troopers are fine, and LEGO doesn't really need to improve on them. But the thing is, over the next 5 or 10 years, LEGO will have to start changing their figures somehow to drive new sales. For example, when we look at the new 2020 Airborne Trooper, this is a great figure and is more accurate to the last one, but the changes made here are very minor. And as time goes on, LEGO will eventually get to a point where arm printing and accessories will be the new norm. So getting to that stage is more of a matter of when it will happen, not if it will. And as LEGO continues to target older audiences, they will need to make more desirable and collectible minifigures that are more accurate to their in-universe forms. A great indicator of this is the new Bespin Duel set coming out in the next couple of months. LEGO is including this set as part of their new 18+ sets meant to target adults and older fans of LEGO. And for this, they decide to include the new completely printed, extremely accurate variation of Darth Vader, since they do realize that older fans may be more concerned with the accuracy of figures and the little details that younger fans may not care too much about. Not to say that there aren't younger fans who also value accuracy, it's just most kids play with their sets instead of use them as display pieces like most adults. Not that it's wrong to play with LEGO as an adult or anything either, LEGO is for all ages, always has been, and always will be. So as LEGO continues to make this push into the older market, making these more accurate clone troopers would be an awesome idea. Also, another small thing I wanted to mention was that LEGO needs to make way more Phase 2 white clone troopers. Anyways, those are the ways I think LEGO needs to improve the LEGO Clone Trooper by moving toward fully printed minifigures, bringing back accessories and customization, including more named and special variants of clones, and just straight up making more LEGO Clone Troopers in sets. I think following this strategy would be amazing for both LEGO and their fans alike. And that pretty much does it for the evolution of the LEGO Star Wars Clone Trooper. Before you head out, make sure to let me know what your favorite clone troopers ever made are. Mine has definitely got to be the ARC Trooper from 2012. Also, make sure to let me know how you would like to see LEGO clones evolve and what they should do to make them better. And if you guys enjoyed watching this video, make sure to hit that like button. And to see tons of more LEGO Star Wars content just like this, make sure to subscribe. Also, make sure to enter the giveaway if you haven't done so already. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.